All right, we got the black pieces facing e4. What do we think? I saw e5 in there. Saw a few suggestions that we may not get to play. And I'll tell you, if he was planning to play queen h5, I don't think it would have mattered what we played. So he's trying to cheese us, right? This is the all-time great queen h5. Queen takes e5. Now, everyone needs to know, and I mean needs to know, not like, oh, I have an idea, but needs to know, like, guaranteed every single time you see this, you're not scared. You need to know how to deal with this. Everyone. Let's start first things first. Queen takes e5 is the only threat. This is not a threat. This is a threat. So we need to defend the actual threat. And let's develop a piece and do that. My opponent right now is quite literally like frothing at the mouth. Like just, he's thinking to himself, oh my goodness! Like he can't wait to unleash queen f7. So step one, they attack the e-pawn. So we defend the e-pawn. So just remember, when the queen comes out, the threat is the e-pawn. When the bishop comes out as well, the threat is the f-pawn. So you've already defended this. Now, don't think about anything other than defending the next important thing. This pawn. Knight f6 does not defend the pawn. Now, in order to defend it, we have moves like knight h6, queen e7, queen f6. I'll be honest with you, those moves are pretty lame, and they're not really where we want to put those pieces. So what you do after this is you play this move, because now that's not a threat, and g6 interposes on that diagonal. g6 takes care of f7. Now, obviously, someone who is thirsty and only gets a sip of water is going to have their tongue wagging like a dog for more. Queen f3. He's not done yet. f7 is still under attack. But remember, when the queen goes back, nothing's changed except the angle at which the pawn is attacked. The threat is still the exact same. Pawn's being attacked. So now we can take our knight, develop it to that really normal looking starting square, and it will interpose the queen's line. Okay, knight f6. Now the move d3 has happened because if I had to guess, bishop g5 is the intention, right? Wants to attack the knight, and maybe some dreams of getting the queen into f7 still. Now, if he ever plays bishop g5, it's important to know that things are under control, right? Because we have bishop g7 at all times. So in this position, I'm not going to lie, I'm actually interested in maybe taking my opponent's bishop. So we might think about moves like knight a5, right? Bishop g7. These are all fantastic looking moves, but none compare to the disgusting feeling that your opponent will get when you play the move b5. b5 is a slap in the face to anyone who plays this opening. Anyone. b5 immediately puts the question to the bishop. if we went knight d4, the queen would retreat to d1, of course. But now we get the bishop in a nice way. And we have the added benefit of a potential blunder. So I want to play knight d4. I was going to do it on the last move, but may as well include b5 first. Knight d4 now. I pick up the bishop. And what will be the result of my opponent's opening? What will be the result? Not only will half your opponents blunder by taking on b5, but the other half will enter a position like this where, yes, they're not going to keep their bishop. They're going to lose it. And they've only got a queen developed. It's not good enough, right? That is not good enough. Queen g3. Guess what? e5 is hanging. Don't worry, we're not in a rush to take this. That bishop is ours no matter what. There's nothing he can do to save it. So let's just defend the actual threat here. d6. Easy, right? Knight takes b3 is coming up. But remember, if they're not, I'm pretty sure we'll see maybe one of these two moves next. Or maybe c3. If they don't, though, we have another really fun move, which is going to be a5. It's even tougher to deal with. So hopefully he plays a move much like this, where he's actually threatening the knight. And that is important. Because if a5 now, the knight gets captured. We're not a big fan of that. Take the bishop, right? Although this is fine, we're not really interested in that. Taking the bishop is what we came here to do. Now there's literally no threats there. No threats on f7. All you've got is a position where, I don't know, he's got a couple pieces out. It's normal. Normal enough. Should be a very good position for black. Just because there's no threats to our king. We're going to play bishop g7, which makes use of the g6 move. Right? Do we care about this pawn? We actually care about it a lot in the sense that we care about it being captured. So that maybe we could play c5 and trap the bishop in there. So we would love to see that. We also kind of like to see the move knight to f3. There are a few options here which present themselves. Knight h5 becomes immediately tempting. The queen is so close to being trapped. Knight h5, queen on these two squares. And although I have bishop f6, no, it is not trapped. If the queen went to g5, there'd be queen h6. And if queen h4, there's bishop g5. So unfortunately, not quite trapping the queen, but still looking pretty nice there. What move would actually trap the queen? Knight h5. Oh, actually, if that h-pawn was on h6, then the queen would be trapped. That's a nice feeling. And h6 to me looks like a highly useful move anyway, because it deals with this square. So me, I'm a big fan of h6. That sets up a move that wins the queen on the spot next turn. So that's just a nice thing to have in our back pocket. It doesn't do anything after h3. You might say, oh, the queen can go to h2, but h6 is a useful move for us. It's not a waste of time. We're not just playing like some hope chess kind of moves. We're actually playing a move that makes a serious threat and is useful for us anyway. So our opponent plays d4, unaware of our knight h5 move. Knight takes e4 has been hung here. It's a free pawn, right? But we don't want to get sidetracked. By taking here, white plays queen h4, hits our knight, and it will be a queen trade. So instead of getting sidetracked there, stick to the plan. Knight h5, where does this queen go? It can't go to any of these squares, right? Because the bishop, pawn, knight are all there. h6, covered g5. So queen h4 is the only move, and after queen h4, bishop f6 hits the queen, and this time, there's no place for the queen to go. Because h6 takes away this. So it's move 11. Our opponent is losing their queen. And this is a perfect moment where you just sit back and you think to yourself how it started versus how it's going. How it started, how it's going. White has only one move on the board, and our next move would be bishop to f6, so immediately winning as a result. I like the move bishop to g5 from my opponent. I think that's a fun move. I have a question for you guys. You really can't have a wrong answer because everything you choose here will be winning for one reason or another. But what would you guys play here? And there are a lot of options. The queen is hanging, the bishop's hanging. I mean, there's a lot. So if we take here, great move. Queen takes. The only thing is the queen has a retreat now and offering a trade. So we'll be winning. We'll win a full piece. But technically, we won't be that winning. The move that I actually am the most cautious to play and the least optimistic about is the move knight g3. Even though knight g3 wins a whole rook, it's the move I like the least. White plays bishop c7. All my pawns are falling. And guess what? That knight on h1, at some point in this game, it will be captured by a rook. It's going to be dead. So all you're winning there is an exchange. You're winning a rook for an eventual knight, because your knight won't get out. So the worst decision you could make is to do that. But I think in some ways it's the most tempting, because you get a queen and you get a rook. Like, how could that not be good? Well, your knight gets stuck there, and you lose a bunch of pawns in the meantime. So this is really the wrong instinct. You always take something for nothing instead of something for something worse. Meaning, I'll take a bishop and just be up a bishop rather than take this and be ended up the exchange. I have a rook, you have a knight. It's like, it's not a guarantee. But having a full extra bishop is always the best. Now, all that being said, the best move in this position is f6. This is the best move when you think about trapping that queen. Right? f6, and you're like, wait a minute, isn't stuff still hanging? So what would white do after f6? It still needs to be calculated. But after f6, bishop takes, queen takes, right? Then you think about queen h4. Are you trapping that queen? Does anyone have the answer? It's definitely easier to play pawn takes bishop. But f6, we may be hopeful for a little more. And remember, if you play this and you take with the bishop or something, you're trolling, because then you lose this pawn. So while this is playable, I'm going to go with the move f6, and we'll see. We will see if we're able to be even luckier than just winning a full piece here. I want to go for more. Note that we're only playing a weird looking move like this because there's just like a bunch of things hanging. But our position is overwhelming here. Okay, it goes queen h4, but remember, queen h4 previously was going to lose the queen. So what's changed? Nothing, I think. Still losing the queen. We take. We're hitting the queen. The knight can take. We take back. And what's about to happen might be a very common phenomenon, which is my opponent was going to lose the queen, right? And it sucks. My heart goes out to you. But you would have just lost your queen for maybe a piece. Now, because you tried to save your queen, you lost 2 pieces, and you're still losing your queen. It's the worst situation you could be in. Not only are you still losing the queen, but you've lost 2 pieces in the process. Remember, the pieces still hit those important squares. Queen has nowhere to go, and the queen guards that pawn on g5. How it started, how it's going. 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 And it's just poetic. Yeah? You like the h5 square, little guy, huh? You like that, huh? You like it now? You like it now? Takes d4. Knight takes on b5. Something tells me that knight ain't long for the world. Knight a3 probably has to happen. g4 can be played. Bishop d7. There's no way the knight can capture on a7, so something like this is probably sufficient. I like the move g4 here, because it kind of, if the king ever castles, I really appreciate that queen h4 is about to be checkmate. And if the knight takes here for whatever reason, the rook's covering the escape, and we can just go bishop d7. And if they don't take on a7, remember, the knight's also attacked. Knight takes on a7. Good move. Now we just need to move this bishop. Bishop d7 or bishop b7. I think we can get the job done either way. Bishop e7 is a little bit nice because it actually hits this pawn. Let's go for this one. Bishop d7 is the more standard move because it really traps the knight, guarantee. But I have to say this is too tempting not to play. And we do see castling, which is exactly why we brought this here. There we go. g3, not gonna cut it. Queen takes h2. And quite honestly, you should never, ever be losing or getting a bad position to this garbage, trash, low tier, bottom feeding opening. So, let's observe. Queen h5, and the opening isn't awful, right? It's not like it gets an evaluation like, oh, white's completely winning or white's completely losing. Nothing like that. Knight c6. Okay, they're all obviously going to go bishop c4. So step 1, defend this pawn. right? And even if they start with bishop c4, first of all, you could play knight f6 and then you have no issues. But even if you played knight c6 after bishop c4, just remember that when the queen is attacking your pawn from there, you play knight f6. When the queen's attacking your pawn from here, first of all, make sure e5 is defended, step 1, and then step 2 is play g6. Make sure that's defended when the queen's on h5. Play g6 when the queen's threatening mate from there, and play knight f6 when the queen's threatening from there. That's it. It's 3 rules. The knight comes out. Okay, mate. Stop it this way. Queen goes here. Stop it this way. d3. Now in this position, knight d4 is a great move. In fact, it is one of the best moves. Right? Knight d4 is fantastic. And if you play knight d4, the queen must retreat to d1. So objectively, it is a really, really strong move. But how many people at 700 are going to take your pawn here? How many? Just be honest. Like, you could farm hundreds of people who are going to capture on b5. b5 is probably like it's this clear second best move, but because you're dealing with someone who's just wildly thirsty to checkmate you, they might see this move and boom, that's going to just win you the game. Game over. Done. Right? Because the nasty thing is they have to retreat. They have to retreat. Knight c2 is maybe even nastier than knight takes b5. Okay, so this is an issue. You're attacking too many things. Let's say my opponent here plays the exact same way they played in the game. Remember, they played queen g3? Now, if you take here, no. Knight c2. Knight c2. This is the one that hurts. So they have to go back here to guard. Then you take the bishop. Yes. There you go. What about bishop d7? Let's just say I trust you to find the move here. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I trust you. What about bishop to g5? Well, you bring up a great point. You're absolutely right. But just react to that threat. Don't go taking this bishop and allowing this. Just defend this. Bishop g7, right? No need to stress. No need to stress. So, love the move b5. Knight d4 to follow. Easy, easy. d6. No problemo. Here we did h6, which I really like. There's actually, I mean, this was a big blunder, and so bad things happen to good people here. But I will say, in this position, because of the move bishop e3, and only because of bishop e3, knight h5, I think, was playable. So bishop e3, knight h5. I'm not sure if we trap the queen, but damn, this looks good. I really want it with h6. It's a little better. Obviously, black must have a tremendous advantage here, but somehow I actually don't think we're trapping the queen. So maybe knight h5 is a little too early here. Yeah, this was very similar to the game, which is why I played h6. Because if I had gone for this, I wasn't sold on this. So I like h6. And yeah, big mistake there. Some people were wondering about bishop takes f6, which of course, totally playable. But after this, if you take on e5, I really only need to move my queen, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be losing another piece there. So let's say you did queen h4, right? I would move my queen. So I'm threatening bishop f6, I'm threatening g5. Right? There's no way to actually save this queen, remarkably. even if you wanted to, and you took a move here, and you're like, how do I save this damn queen? You can't actually do it without giving up loads and loads of material, right? The things you lose might be worse than losing the queen. G4 drops the knight, you know? Takes, knight takes, just drops a full knight there. You'd have to follow up with the F4. Like, there's going to be heavy material losses. So, it's almost not even worth giving up all those pieces to try to save your queen. Just lose the queen. But anyway, this is how it finished, and there wasn't really any chance there. You literally tried the same thing. Oh. He tried the same thing. Wait, my opponent? You're telling me this poor guy tried the same thing on his next game? Oh my goodness. Oh man, poor guy. He tried the same thing, literally right after. He lost in 6 moves. Oh, look at this guy. He hit him with knight d4, and he blundered queen e3. He didn't even play queen d1. Oh. Oh, nasty. He just got hit with everything. Get him out of here. We are not making fun of the player. We are making fun of the opening. That opening. And you know what? There are some people in this very chat room. That's right. You know, look around. Look amongst yourselves. There are some people silent in this chat room right now that play this goddamn opening. I know it. You sick individuals. You're out there somewhere. I know you're there. Look amongst yourselves. Someone can't be trusted here. You know who you are. That's enough shame for you to live with. You know who you are. But we have to be able to handle garbage like this. There you go. One final move for you guys, because it will always be a comment. Queen b3, right? Threatening f7. I've mentioned this before, but when people play queen b3 to further put pressure here, look, if you play queen e7, fantastic. Great move, bishop g7 castle. But if you really want to teach someone a lesson, after they play this, just play knight d4. They'll hate themselves. Play knight d4. They'll take this, and they'll be, like, fully erect. You play king e7, and, well, their queen needs to maintain contact with the bishop. So where's it going to go? There's only one square in this whole diagonal that's safe. And hopefully you can find the next move. b5. Knight c2 is a threat. King takes bishop is a threat. It's our friend b5 once again. There you go. This position is -4. -4. It's game over. It's done. GG. Get these queen h5 players out of here.